Hello, beautiful people. I'm here to do our Q&A from the Inner Circle. The Inner Circle is a private Slack group where we connect, and every now and again, whenever there is enough cues for the Q&A, I will come and answer them. So if you'd like to join the Inner Circle, the link is just below. But for now, I want to get these questions answered. So we have a question, and I'll read these out. I'd love to know, for those who have a defined root or will center, this is in human design, how this works for you. I have both defined root and will. Find I have a fair amount of energy and a ton of willpower. So if I say I'm going to get something done, I will. Therefore, I struggle to know if I'm living out of alignment, being more like an energy type, or if it's because I have those two defined. That said, they're more bursts than ongoing, and I've burnt out many times. Okay, so also asking about defined throat center. Okay, so I think that there is a little bit of a misconception around being a projector or being a non-energy type or having lots of centers undefined. And honestly, like, human design is about differentiation, right? It's about your uniqueness. And so your chart is a guide to your uniqueness. And so if you're noticing like, oh, I seem to have more energy than other projectors that I speak to, and then you go, oh yeah, but I have a defined will and I have a defined root, you know, it makes sense. There's also a couple of different types of projectors, and for example, I'm an energy projector. If you want to know more about that, just Google like 3 types of projectors or types of projectors and you can see which one you are. But I'm an energy type and I also have a defined will. So there may be times where it seems like I have more energy, I have more willpower to, you know, make things happen than other projectors. But the key here is really just to see that this chart is about your uniqueness, right? So there's nothing that you can do wrong with this. There's nothing that you can get wrong. All it is a tool for awareness, a tool for noticing, and it seems like you're doing an incredible job of having awareness around these things. And I think you know, you're on the right track of just asking these questions, right? Just asking, what does it feel like for you? What does it feel like for you? And I just want to talk about this defined throat piece as well, because the questioner says, do you find doing videos and talking comes naturally to you? I would say from seeing you in action that it does, whereas I struggle with it and am more comfortable with writing. So if you're more comfortable with writing, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to do video if it doesn't feel good for you. You can do writing and you can create an incredible business where you never speak on video, you never speak to your audience, you know, in this kind of way. You only ever speak to them through writing. That is entirely possible and entirely beautiful if that's what's right for you. The one thing I will say is, let me just pull up my chart, is that the, so I have a defined throat center. So it makes sense. I have a consistent way of sharing with you, of speaking, and I think that definitely does help in terms of me doing video and audio work. However, what I will say is I learned something about the undefined parts of our chart recently that just really changed how I felt about them. So I want to share it with you, and I heard this from Karen Curry Parker. And she described the undefined areas in the chart as almost places where, like, throughout your life, imagine you have a basket, and throughout your life, when you encounter people who have it defined, who have definition where you have undefinition, you are basically like taking what you see them do with that definition. You're taking like their consistent way of expressing and you're placing it in your basket, right? And you're doing that with every single person that you encounter who is defined where you are undefined. And so what that means is that you, as someone with an undefined throat, you're seeing the way that I consistently speak and share through my defined throat center, and you're taking that and you're putting it in your basket. But you've also got the example of everybody else that you've ever encountered who has a defined throat. And so when you come to use your voice, to use your throat center, you have an absolute myriad, an absolute abundance of different ways that you can potentially express yourself, because you have gathered all of this wisdom in the ways that that can be done. And so while yours might look different each time, you know, my way of speaking and sharing, it's consistent because I'm defined. When you see me speak on here, very similar way to when you see me speak in other places, in other times. There's a continuity within it. However, for you, it might look really different, right? Sometimes you might show up, if you want to do video, by the way, you don't have to at all. But if you want to, it means you might show up one day and you might be, you know, taking what you've seen from me and be like, oh, okay, I can kind of like bring that in. I know what that's like. I can try it on almost. And then another day you might be trying on something from someone else. And so it could actually be a really fun place of exploration for you. And if you are someone who's undefined on the throat, but you're wanting to get more comfortable speaking on camera because, you know, for whatever reason, what I'd recommend you do is, just for you, get your phone and just speak into your camera for a couple of minutes every day, right? And you're not going to put these anywhere, you're not going to show them to anyone, you're just going to keep them for at least a couple of weeks, and then you're going to go back and watch them, and you're going to see how many different ways you express yourself, and you're going to see so much beauty, and that's going to give you so much confidence to do it more publicly. So that's my recommendation for that. Okay, let's see. And yeah, we've got some other people in this group who are kind of sharing, and that's so beautiful to see. The next question is about splenic authority. Any recommendations for navigating if we don't remember our initial reaction from the spleen upon receiving an invitation? Okay, this, I'm not a splenic authority, as you know, I'm emotional authority. So my answer here will be purely from things that I've read, experiences with clients who have splenic authority, which there tends to be. I tend to get a lot of people with splenic authority come to me. I don't know why that is. But I think from everything I've read, I've heard that the spleen will give you an answer once and then it will not repeat itself. So I'm not sure whether it's going to be possible for you to try and then grab that if you don't remember it from a previous invitation. What I would say is, if that happens, maybe look to your motivation in human design instead, because especially for projectors, the motivation is incredibly helpful for navigating invitations. For example, my motivation is hope motivation, which means my not self is guilt. And so if I receive an invitation, yes, I have to wait out my emotional wave, but let's say that's, you know, not helpful. I need to make a decision more quickly than my wave would allow. Which sometimes does happen, you know, sometimes there are deadlines, I have to make a choice. I can tune into, like, does this give me the feeling of hope? Or does this give me the feeling of guilt? And if there's any sense of guilt behind it, if there's like a feeling like I should say yes to it, or other people are going to be upset with me if I say no to it, then I know that it's not the correct invitation for me. So that would be my recommendation if you don't remember your splenic response, is to lean back on your motivation, but also work on, of course, hearing your spleen. You know, really honing like your ability to hear that authority. And I have to be careful here. Someone actually brought this to my attention in the Inner Circle group, and it was such a great reflection and realization for me, because I was speaking about splenic authority and I said something about feeling, and she, you know, she was like, oh, I'm splenic, and actually for me it's not a feeling, I like actually hear it. And so I think, you know, it might be different for different people, but yeah, you've got to really practice hearing that spleen, and yeah, but lean on your motivation if not. I hope that's helpful. Okay, next question is how to go about scheduling calls when you don't know what your energy will be like, and feeling like you have to show up for things, and like the fear of that when you come in to, you know, wanting to bring in more client work, wanting to, you know, bring in more appointments, but the fear of like being afraid that you're gonna overdo it or not want to show up to a scheduled call. Now, I have actually every single one-on-one coaching call, because one-on-one is like the main offer that I do. I have done some group work in the past, but it's, you know, one-on-one is really my space. I have never, ever had the feeling that I don't want to show up to a one-on-one call. Even when I'm tired, even when it's been a, you know, it's been a long week or a hard week, or things are going on in my personal life, or I'm going through, you know, a personal initiation of some kind, I have never had the feeling of like, oh, I have to go on this one-on-one call. And I tell you, the reason for that is because I am so picky and particular and boundaried around who my clients are. And if you have a deal with yourself, if you have a commitment with yourself that you will only do work that you love with people that you love to do it with, then you probably will never have that feeling. And so I want you to think back about times that you have had that feeling. Was it literally because it's a client who's not 100% aligned, or work that's not 100% aligned? Because I'm telling you, when it's work that's 100% aligned with people that are 100% aligned for you, you won't feel that. It will actually be something that you always look forward to. It will be something that, you know, is grounding for you, or at least that's the experience for me. And so get really clear, like, what's a no, you know? And the latest call time I will do is 2 p.m. UK time. And that does cut out, you know, that does cut out some clients. I have, you know, clients who get up at 6 o'clock in the morning for our calls because they value our work. And I know that I'm not going to be the best coach I can be after that time, because I'm tired by then, right? I know from personal experience that after 2 p.m. I don't have the energy to show up in the way that I'd want to show up. So you've got to get clear on like, when are your best times of working? Are you willing to be super boundaried around those times and say, I'm only taking clients between this time and this time on these particular days? So mine is between 8:30 a.m. is the earliest, 2 p.m. is the latest, and that's just 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's the only time I'll see clients. And because of these rules that I have around timings, around the client themselves, around the type of work that it is, I never feel like that. And I know for sure, because I've done this work with many people now, that there will be a special mix of ingredients that you can bring together that will do this for you as well. So I would encourage you to take that away, see how it feels. You do give me a little bit more information in here, because I asked you to, about, you know, what you're doing. And it seems like it was the one-off sessions and one-off card readings that really were the ones that burned you out the most. And so maybe you don't do one-off readings anymore, or maybe you only do one a month, I don't know, or one a week, who knows? But this is what I want to ask you to think about. The things that I've just said, make a note of them, and then go through and put what your boundaries are, what you're excited about, all of those limits around it. And don't be afraid to do that, right? Don't be afraid to do that. When someone says to me, oh, you know, will you see me at 5 p.m. your time? And I say no, because it's my priority to serve you at the highest level I possibly can, that doesn't turn that person off. Or if it does, it shows me they're not the right person anyway. But the aligned clients are like, yeah, I want you at your best, and I'm willing to do what it takes to make this relationship work. So it's a two-way thing. So that is my response to that one. And I have a lovely message here saying, Emma, your latest newsletter was the perfect mirror and reflection for me. I'm so glad. It spoke to my soul, similar journeys. Wow. Yes, I love that. I love that so much. So this person says, they have also been called into the path of non-duality, I am consciousness, flow state for the last 2 years, learning and embodying human design, quantum science and Eastern arts, and she has 3 left arrows in HD, same as me. So she says, goes on to say, I'd love to hear how you personally incorporate strategy into your unique flow, maybe with some practical examples. Yes, so strategy to me, it kind of means two things, right? Strategy to me can mean, like, for example, my marketing strategy, which is just a plan of how my work all integrates together and how it all links together. And I can actually show you that, because I have it on a big piece of paper, and I know you're not going to be able to see this, but this is my current marketing strategy. And what it is, just to run through it quickly, because I feel like this is the practical example that you asked for. So what I do, and this is a new strategy that I'm testing out, so we'll see, but it feels really good at the moment. The strategy is, after each of my one-on-one coaching calls, I will consider, like, what did I learn? Because I learn so much through the one-on-one coaching calls as the coach with my clients. And I realized that really, you know, the people I coach one-on-one, I love the work we do. I love the connection that I have with these women. And I know that the things that we talk about are the things that I really want to talk about. And so I will take, like, my greatest insight from that client call, not the client's insight, nothing specific to them, but what I learned, right? What I learned through the session. And I will hit go and record myself speaking, and then I upload that to YouTube, and then I add the link to a newsletter draft that I'm going to send weekly. And the newsletter has a structure, and so it all flows down from my whole marketing strategy, flows down from my one-on-one connections. And that just feels so good for me, right? It feels like putting my one-on-one clients and my one-on-one experiences at the very center of my business, which for me is a strategy, right? For me, that is a strategy. And I think sometimes there's a bit of confusion around what is a strategy. So that's a strategy for me, is deciding I want to really prioritize one-on-one. I want to put my one-on-one experiences right at the center of my business. What would that look like for me? In terms of a marketing plan, in terms of onboarding, in terms of offboarding, in terms of literally everything in my business, right? Because they're my priority. That's my top priority. And so I think strategy can be about the questions you ask yourself. And so that's one place. And in terms of my unique flow, you know, I'm going to see how this works. And for me, strategy means I get to give it a go, and I always get to give myself a backdoor, right? I always get to give myself the idea that if this doesn't feel good or this doesn't work, I'm able to tweak it, right? One of my strategies, one of my personal strategies is I can change whatever I want whenever I want, right? And strategies for me, they do actually tend to be sentences, like one-line sentences. I actually found a new one this morning in my own coaching session, which is, I work with clients who don't need anything from me, and need is underlined. And that's a strategy for me, right? A strategy for me is to say, I don't want to work with people who see me as a savior, who see me as a guru, who see me as 10 steps ahead of them, and I'm just gonna, you know, tell them what to do, tell them what works. I don't really want clients like that. It's not exciting, it's not fun for me. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in hierarchy in that way. Actually, I want to work one-on-one with people who are peers, you know, with people who are peers, who they don't need anything from me, but actually they just want somebody to, you know, someone highly skilled to ask them great questions, to be a reflection back to them, to take them back into their highest wisdom, you know, when they're getting caught in ego, when they're getting caught in mind chatter, when they're getting caught in fear, to be the reflection, the loving reflection of that for them, because that's my highest gift, that's my highest offering. So so it's a strategy, right? It becomes a strategy for me of a strategy is I don't take clients who need things from me. And so then when I'm looking at, you know, people who are applying to work with me, if I get any sense of that need, I know it's a no. So strategies for me kind of feel like rules, rules in the best way. Yeah. And I have another strategy, I'll give you another one. Another strategy is no action can be taken from conditioned thought, right? That's a strategy of mine. I will not jump into action off the back of a conditioned thought. So what I've got to do with that is be super aware, getting more and more aware every day of what's a conditioned thought, checking in every time I have a thought that makes me want to drive into action. I'm questioning, is this from my conditioning? Is this ego? Is this the small self? Or is it truth, right? And the only action I take is action that comes from truth. So I'll prevent myself from taking action that my body wants to move into if I've identified that it's coming from something other than the truth. And I had an experience of this yesterday because I was sitting here, and I had like the small self chatting away as it does constantly, constantly, telling me like, oh, well, we need more money and we need more clients and we need more this and this is what it does, right? This is what it does. And so there came this action. I found myself go onto Instagram trying to write a post. No, I stopped it. I was like, no, this is being driven from conditioned thought. This is being driven from not truth, and no action can come from that, because any action that comes from that is unhealthy, unhelpful, and I just have to undo it all and heal from it all after. And so I'm trying now to cut it off at the root, and that's another strategy for me. So strategy can mean, practical strategy like a marketing strategy. It can also mean like personal guidelines, is what I found. What was your process like in claiming and owning your mastery? I recognise that as projectors, we see the mastery in the other so easily, but hesitate to fully own our craft and value. I'm honestly still on this journey, and I believe I will be on it for the rest of my life. I don't believe that I'm going to reach a point where I go, that's it, I'm a master at this. I know everything there is to know. But claiming and owning my mastery, it's a tricky one, right? Because that is a slippery place for the ego to come in. That's a slippery place for anyone who is a projector and is like on this idea of mastery. It's tricky, right? Because the ego loves that. The ego wants to go, I am the all-knowing, wise guru, right? Because they're like, the ego would absolutely love to be a master of some kind. So I've had to be really careful as I've explored this, in working out what this is. But what I will say is that I have worked with therapists, with guides, with coaches, with spiritual counsel, consistently. Pretty much I have always had a coach, and it makes sense, doesn't it, that a coach would say get a coach. But I honestly believe that it's particularly helpful for projectors to have someone who sees you, who is constantly reflecting your own brilliance back to you. And this is the key in like finding a good coach, right? Projectors and anyone who is conscious, highly sensitive, or wants to do things in a kind of progressive different way, the worst thing that you could ever do is hire a coach who wants to teach you to be more like them, who wants to teach you the way that they did it, who wants to show you what they've done to get where they are, right? Like, it's the most unhelpful thing. Not only does it not move you forward, it actually takes you back, because it takes you into deeper conditioning. And so the best thing you can do is find a coach or a friend, or do a skill swap if you can't afford coaching right now. If you can, hire the best coach that you can find, and make sure that before you get into a coaching relationship with them, that it's very clear that they're not just trying to get you to be more like them, right? That they are a clear mirror for you, that they can see you and they can reflect it back to you. It's the most helpful thing. It's been the most helpful thing for me in claiming and owning my own mastery. And as I said, I'm very much still in that process, which is why I'm still working with a one-on-one coach and investing in that, because it's so worth it for me. So that is my answer to that, and that is all of the questions that we have today. So this email will be posted in the replay section of the Inner Circle, and if you're watching this and you're not part of the Inner Circle and you'd like to ask me a question and join the community, the link is below. It's a one-time payment of just $44 and no ongoing fees. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here and sending you so much love. Take care.